Hi, I'm the history guy. I have a degree in history and I love history. And if you love history too, this is the channel for you. 113 years ago today, on June 15th, 1904, one of America's worst maritime disasters occurred in New York City's East River. The fire aboard the passenger steamer General Slocum is generally not as well remembered as other disasters of the era, like the sinking of the Titanic or the Shirtwaist Factory fire, but it shouldn't be. The disaster on the General Slocum changed maritime policy. It transformed the neighborhoods of New York, and its victims deserve to be remembered. The passenger steamer General Slocum was a sidewheel steamboat built in Brooklyn, New York in 1891. She had a keel of 235 feet and was constructed of white oak and yellow pine. She had one engine fed by two boilers and was propelled by two 31-foot diameter paddle wheels on both sides. She was named after Civil War General Henry Warner Slocum, who commanded the Union right at the Battle of Gettysburg and later represented New York State in the U.S. House of Representatives. The General Slocum had 3 decks and was licensed for 2,500 passengers. It had had some mishaps in its day. Several times it had grounded on sandbanks. Twice it had collided with other vessels. And in 1901, some drunken passengers had tried to take control of the steamship. The crew fought them off. 17 were arrested. The ship was operated by the Knickerbocker Steamboat Company and was generally used for day excursions. It was built as the largest and most splendid excursion steamer in New York. It had recently been overhauled and in May of 1904 had been inspected by the fire marshal, who proclaimed its firefighting equipment in fine working order. In 1904, the General Slocum was captained by 68-year-old William von Schaek, who had been cited for ferrying millions of passengers with an unblemished safety record. Large numbers of immigrants from Germany flowed into New York City in the 1840s and 1850s. By 1855, New York City was third in the world, behind Berlin and Vienna, for the largest German population in a city. Many of those immigrants congregated in a neighborhood in the Lower East Side of Manhattan that was called Little Germany. The German population in the neighborhood quadrupled between 1845 and 1855. By 1870, Little Germany encompassed 400 square blocks. St. Mark's Evangelical Lutheran Church was a centerpiece of the Little Germany community. Its parishioners included some of the most established families in the neighborhood. On June 15th of 1904, St. Mark's had chartered the General Slocum for $350 for a day excursion to the picnic grounds on Locust Point, Long Island. It was an annual end-of-school celebration, the 17th held in a row, and an exciting opportunity to escape the city for a day. As it was a weekday, the passengers were mostly women and children, heavily weighted down with picnic baskets and looking forward to the exciting day. It was a beautiful day out. There was a German band playing on the deck, and St. Mark's beloved Reverend, the Reverend George Haas, was on deck with his wife and daughter. When she cast off, the General Slocum was carrying about 1,400 passengers. The fire started in the lamp room towards the front of the ship, possibly started by a discarded cigarette, but it quickly spread in a room full of oily rags. The ship was passing 97th Street when the crew first noticed smoke coming up through the floorboards. Turns out that the crew had never done a fire drill, and when they went to use the fire equipment, they found out that it had not been maintained. The hoses burst. The fire was too big for them to fight. One of the crew complained that it was like trying to put out hell itself. The captain said that the blaze was the wildest he had ever seen. The fire ripped through the wooden decks, apparently further fueled by flammable paint. The passengers had been given no instruction on how to abandon ship, and it turns out that the lifeboats were similarly not maintained. They had been wired and painted to the deck. They burned before they could be lowered. The life preservers had been hanging outside, subject to the elements, for 13 years. When passengers grabbed them, they disintegrated. Having broken down to nothing but cork powder, they sank like rocks. Like most Americans of the time, very few of the passengers could swim, and they were weighted down by their woolen clothes. The decks collapsed in the fire, throwing people into the fire or crushing them. Reverend Haas, as the fire reached them, jumped overboard with his wife and daughter. They hung on for a while, but all the people jumping off knocked them apart, and they were separated. His burns were so bad that he had to sit behind a screen at his wife's funeral a week later. His daughter was among the last of the bodies to be identified. One newspaper described it as a spectacle of horror beyond words to express. A great vessel, all in flames, sweeping forward in the sunlight, within sight of the crowded city, while her helpless, screaming hundreds were roasted alive or swallowed up in waves. Captain Von Schaik tried to steer towards a wharf, but he was waved off by a tugboat. The fear was that the flames would spread to lumber and oil drums that were stored on the dock. And so instead he steered towards North Brother Island, about 2 miles away. It was an island that held a hospital for infectious diseases. The captain's hope was to be able to ground the Slocum on her side so that the passengers could get off. And so he kept her going at full steam, holding onto the wheel even as his own clothes caught fire. The wheels were spinning so fast that some passengers, as they jumped off, they were crushed by them, and the speed of the boat only fanned the flames and made it worse. When she grounded, she didn't ground on her side, she grounded on her bow, which meant that the rear of the boat, where most of the passengers had gone to escape the flames, was still over 25 feet of water with a deadly tide. In the end, only 321 of the people aboard the General Slocum survived. Bodies washed up on shore for days after, but only around 600 were recovered. More than 400 were never found. It was the deadliest disaster in the history of New York City up until 9/11 in 2001. In 1906, a memorial fountain was installed in Tompkins Square Park. Its inscription read, "They are Earth's purest children, young and fair." Captain Von Schaik and the principal officers of the Knickerbocker Steamboat Company were all indicted for failure to maintain the safety equipment. But the captain was the only one that was ever taken to trial. He was acquitted of manslaughter, but he was convicted of criminal negligence and given a sentence of 10 years. He was pardoned due to his age by President Taft in 1912. The disaster aboard the General Slocum led to significant changes in maritime regulations regarding the maintenance of emergency equipment. It transformed the industry. The neighborhood of Little Germany was already somewhat in decline in 1904, really a result of its own success. Many of the residents had become successful enough to move uptown, but after the General Slocum disaster, the neighborhood faded quickly. There were funerals held for weeks, and after that was followed by depression and several suicides. There wasn't a family in the neighborhood that wasn't touched by the disaster, and it seems that with the fire aboard the Slocum, the heart of the neighborhood simply went away. Little Germany faded. In 1940, the Evangelical Lutheran Church was converted into a synagogue, representing the change in demographics in the neighborhood. And while Little Germany is gone, the victims of the fire aboard the General Slocum still deserve to be remembered. I'm the History Guy, and I hope you enjoyed this edition of my series, 5 Minutes of History, short snippets of forgotten history, 5 to 10 minutes long. And if you did enjoy, then please go ahead and click that thumbs up button that is there on your left. If you have any questions or comments, or would like to suggest another topic for the History Guy, feel free to write those in the comments section, and I'll be happy to respond. And if you'd like 5 minutes more forgotten history, all you need to do is click the subscribe button, which is there on your right.